Hello, all, and welcome again to the Zander channel. Here, I help people get out of their head and establish and maintain our connection to our heart. Yes, even if you're a man. This is my path to happiness, joy, and love. I will also post on how to get out of depression, suicide, stress, anxiety, and other lower vibrational energies on your path to your happiness, especially during times of true or fantasy crisis, such as the time of this video posting. I invite you to subscribe and join me in this journey towards peace, joy, and happiness. Now, this video is a bunch of psychologists saying how to stop overthinking everything. It leads to serious emotional distress, increases your risk of mental health problems. So, what we got here? Well, everyone overthinks a few things once in a while. Chronic overthinkers spend most of their waking time ruminating, which puts pressure on themselves. They then mistake that pressure to be stress. Now, there are people who have levels of overthinking that are just pathological, says clinical psychologist Catherine Pittman, who's an associate professor in the psychology department at St. Mary's College in Notre Dame. But the average person also just tends to overthink things, as Pittman also mentioned in her book, Rewire Your Anxious Brain. Right? Overthinking can take many forms, endlessly deliberating when making a decision, and then questioning that decision that you just made. Now, attempting to read minds, trying to predict the future, reading into the smallest of details. Sound like anybody you know? People who overthink consistently run commentaries in their heads, criticizing and picking apart what they said and did yesterday, terrified that they look bad, and fretting about the terrible future that might await them. What ifs and shoulds and should-haves dominate their thinking, as if an invisible jury is sitting in judgment on their lives, and they also agonize over what to post online because they're deeply concerned about how other people will interpret their posts and updates. They don't sleep well because ruminating and worrying keep them awake at night. Ruminators repetitively go over events asking the big questions. Why did that happen? What does it mean? Why did it happen to me? But they never find answers. This can cause insomnia, cause stress. When it's not really stress, it's overthinking which caused the stress. If you consistently focus on ruminating and make it a habit, it becomes a loop. And the more you do it, the harder it is to stop. Now it's a habit. And that voice in the back of your head is called the ego. It's not you. It keeps telling you because it's programmed to do so. You programmed it throughout your entire life. The more you do it, the harder it is to stop. So often people confuse overthinking with problem solving, says Odesky, who is the author of Stop Anxiety from Stopping You. But what ends up happening is we just sort of go in a loop. We're not really solving a problem. We're just looping back around, asking ourselves the same questions, just using a different word here and there. Overthinking is destructive. It is mentally draining. It makes you feel like you're stuck in one place, and if you don't act, it can greatly impact on your day-to-day life. It will quickly put your health and total well-being at risk, Rumination makes you more susceptible to depression and anxiety. Many people overthink because they are scared of the future and what could potentially go wrong. Because we feel vulnerable about the future, we keep trying to solve problems in our head, says David Cornbell, who's a clinical psychologist and the author of the book, The Worrying Trick. How your brain tricks you into expecting the worst. Extreme overthinkers can easily sap your sense of control over your life. It robs us of active participation in everything around us. Stay in the present moment. When you're overthinking, you're in one of two places. You're in the past, which has already happened, which you cannot change. Would have, could have, should have, done. You got the future, which has not happened yet, which means it absolutely does not exist. And yet, you're anxiously awaiting something that hasn't happened yet. And you're always going to the negative epitaphs on everything that could possibly maybe go wrong based on your history and based on your past. Or I'm not good enough. Or, oh, I bought a lottery ticket, but I'm not worthy to have all that money. You see what you're doing there? Chronic worriers show an increased incidence of coronary problems and suppressed immune functioning. Dwelling on the past or the future also takes us away from the present moment, rendering us unable to complete the work currently on our plate. And if you ask ruminators how they are feeling, none of them will say happy or anything remotely close to happiness. Most feel miserable, says Nicholas Pietri, a senior facility member at the Center of Creative Leadership. Overthinking can trap the brain in a worry cycle. When ruminating becomes as natural as breathing, you need to quickly deal with it and find a solution. Call a hypnotherapist, find a hypnotherapist. Will a psychologist help you? If you consider drugs the solution, then yeah, psychologist, psychiatrist, go get it. Cover up the symptom. Get some drugs. 6 or 8 years down the way, you'll figure it out, and you'll probably have to solve your own problem. The only person that can heal you is yourself. If you want it done in a couple of weeks, between 1 and 4 weeks, talk to a hypnotherapist. If you want it to be years and take some sort of drug with unpleasant side effects, call a psychiatrist, call a psychologist. If you're already seeing one of the latter, then stay with them. But I suggest you talk to them about getting some hypnotherapy assistance. Unless, of course, you're stuck to the drugs. That's called an addiction. You can also be addicted to people, such as a psychologist or psychiatrist. Or they may very well be addicted to you and your money. When an unpleasant event puts us in a despondent mood, it is easier to recall other times when you felt terrible because the emotion is the trigger to your past events. And you relive the past event, thereby amplifying the emotion of the current moment. And that sets the stage for a ruminator to work herself into a downward spiral. So how do we defeat this pattern? How do you get your life back? Chronic worrying is not permanent. It is a mental habit that can be broken. You can train your brain to look at life from a different perspective. Hypnosis is the ideal tool for this. Self-hypnosis, you can do it that way. It takes a little longer, takes some practice, but it can be done through self-hypnosis. I have a video on how to do self-hypnosis. Okay? To overcome overthinking, Pittman recommends that you replace the thought. Telling yourself to not have a certain thought is not the way to have the thought. You need to replace the thought. The mind does not understand no or negative words. Don't stop means stop to the mind. It eliminates the negative word. The human mind is geared towards positive thinking. You just insert things such as negative words and then wonder why you do the exact opposite. So what if I tell you to stop thinking about pink elephants? What the fuck are you thinking about right now? Pink elephant? Well, I don't want you to think about a pink elephant, so don't think about the pink elephant. Why are you thinking about the pink elephant? I told you not to think about the pink elephant. So, or did you conjure up an image of a turtle? Maybe there's a big turtle holding a rose in his mouth as it crawls towards you saying, I love you. So now you're not thinking about the pink elephants, right? But don't think about the turtle with the rose in its mouth that loves you. Talk yourself out of it by noticing when you're stuck in your head. You can tame your overthinking habit if you can start taking a grip on your self-talk. The inner voice that provides a running monologue throughout the day and even into the night. Rewrite your ego's speech towards you and towards itself. Now, you can cultivate a little psychological distance by generating other interpretations of the situation, which makes your negative thoughts less believable, says Bruce Hubbard, who is the director of Cognitive Health Group and an adjunct assistant professor of psychology and education at Columbia University. Pardon me. This is called cognitive restructuring. Ask yourself, what is the probability that what I'm scared of will actually happen? If the probability is low, what are more outcomes that are more likely? If it's a problem you keep ruminating about, rephrase the issue towards to reflect the positive outcomes that you're actually looking for, suggests Nolen Hosheka. Instead of, I'm stuck in my career, I hate my job, tell yourself, or better still, write down, I want a job where I feel more engaged. Then make a plan to expand your skills, expand your network, and look for opportunities for a better career. Don't quit your job and then start looking. You're never going to get anywhere. As a matter of fact, that'll be counterproductive. You'll run out of money, your family will go downhill with you, and nobody's going to be happy. Find ways to make money outside of your career if that is not what you want to be doing for the rest of your life. Find a constructive way of processing any worries or negative thoughts, says Honey. Write your thoughts down in a journal every night before bed or first thing in the morning. They don't have to be in any specific order. Do a brain dump of everything on your mind onto that page. Sometimes that can afford a sense of relief and actually help you figure out that your ruminating thought is actually bullshit. You can see it on a piece of paper how dumb it actually is. But it doesn't seem dumb when you're telling yourself this every day. And you have been telling yourself this every day for the past year. Sometimes it becomes your truth. But when you write it down, it looks ridiculous. That's how you get rid of them. Replace them with something else. If your thoughts and your habits are not worth $1 billion, then why do you even have them? It's not helping you. The idea is to reconnect with your immediate world and everything around you in the present now situation. It's called mindfulness. When you begin to notice, you spend less time in your head. The terminology, stop and smell the roses, instead of just driving by them in your car with your window up and your air conditioning on. You can also notice your overthinking habit and talk yourself out of it. Becoming self-aware can help you take control. Pay more attention. Say something like, I'm feeling kind of anxious and uncomfortable. Where am I? Am I all in my head? Maybe I should go take a walk around the block and see what happens. Recognize your brain is in overdrive or ruminating mode, and then try to snap out of it immediately. Or better still, distract yourself and redirect your attention to something else that requires focus. If you need to interpret and replace hundreds of times a day, it will stop fast, probably within a day. So the more you do it, the quicker you'll be able to stop it. Right? If you have hundreds of thousands, or well, you do have 40 or 50,000 thoughts on a regular day, on average. So interrupt, replace thoughts all the time. You got plenty of time or you plenty of thoughts to do it with throughout the day. And when you do that and you stop and you interrupt the thought and you replace it, it will the number of thoughts you have will be reduced, which will also help you. Now, Dr. Margaret Weinberg, a psychologist and author of the book, The 10 Best Ever Anxiety Management Techniques. Even if the switch is simply to return the attention to the task at hand, it should be a decision to change the ruminating thoughts. It takes practice. Practice makes permanent. But with time, you will be able to easily recognize when you are worrying unnecessarily and choose instead to do something in real life rather than spending a lot of time in your head. For example, convert "I can't believe this happened to me" to "what can I do to prevent it from happening again?" Or convert "I don't have good friends" to "what steps could I take to deepen the friendships I have and find new ones or better ones than I already have?" This is a recommendation by Ryan House. Don't get lost in thoughts about what you could have, would have, and should have done differently. Mental stress can seriously impact your quality of life. So, this is how it works. Overthinking leads to stress. Stress leads to some anxieties. And stress and anxiety, together or separately, leads to depression. Depression leads to different levels of depression, which could include suicide. Let's get out of that cycle. Instead of going down to the lower vibrations, let's bring it up to the higher vibrations. I'm not saying I'm going to eliminate all of your stress. One, only you can do that. Two, I'm not trying to eliminate your stress because stress is required for you to live your life. Okay? It gets you in the flow state, which I'll discuss later in a different video. But in order to stay, a little stress is good for you on the higher side of learning, on the higher side of your flow state. There's a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of stress, and that's where you grow. Too much will push you all the way down into depression. You have to find that happy medium to use stress to your advantage. But this is a video on how to show you how overthinking can lead to the destruction of your life. And, of course, how to get rid of that crap. Now, An overactive mind can make life miserable. Learning how to stop spending time in your head is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. Like all habits, changing your destructive thought patterns can be a challenge, but it's not impossible. With practice, you can train your brain to perceive things differently and reduce the stress of overthinking. Now, if overthinking is ruining your life, and if you think you may be spiraling into depression because of your thoughts, it pays to get professional help. I seriously would rather have a hypnotist rather than a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Now, the psychologist and psychiatrist, they will have your medical insurance and they can bill that shit. Hypnotherapy, not so much. Hypnotherapy, you'll be done in 1 to 4 sessions. Within 4 weeks, you're done. But you have to decide to make that change. You have to decide to heal yourself, not rely on a drug to suppress your symptom, because the overthinking will still be there. The stress will still be there. It's just you're covering up the symptoms so you don't realize that it's still there. If I stick a knife in your gut and they just give you a local anesthetic and do not take the knife out, that's the same damn thing. The knife is still there. It might do you some good to take that thing out before it kills you. That's what hypnosis does. Hey, look, you have a knife there. Go get some professional help. Go to the ER. I'll help you pull the damn knife out, and they will stitch you up. You are the only one that can heal that wound. But unless you remove the object or the thought from that is making that wound, you will never heal. So, there is that. Smash that like button, subscribe below if you learned something, agreed, or found this interesting. Comment below to ask an educated question that you want the answer to. If you love this sexy face, hit the notification bell for my next posting herein. So, take a look at the other videos on my channel if you want to advance your life. Get some other ideas. How does your tomorrow differ from your yesterday? Peace, love, and happiness to all of you. Good day and happy day.